Videos like these are made possible by viewers like you, who support the channel through Patreon, channel memberships, and stream donations. And don't forget to check out the Bad Weapon Rehabilitation servers at www.badweaponrehab.tf. Check the links in the description for more information, and let's get into the video. If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight. And if you can beat Fallout New Vegas as the soldier from TF2, then it must be done. I've been looking forward to this playthrough, particularly because I knew getting some of the weapons and doing some of these challenges would be interesting to say the least. So let's get into that straight away. Obviously the missile launcher is on the table, as well as its unique variant Annabelle, which is actually one of the earliest missile launchers you can get. And there's also the red glare rocket launcher from Lonesome Road, another candidate for an early game explosive primary. But let's not forget the Cow Mangler. That opens the door up to energy weapons, and we have 3 Tesla cannons to choose from. The base Tesla cannon, the Tesla beaten prototype, and Elijah's jury-rigged Tesla cannon from Old World Blues. Speaking of energy weapons, on top of the same selection of shotguns as always, I'm also allowing the plasma pistol for the Righteous Bison. I know some people will say it should be the recharger pistol, but aside from having infinite ammo, the plasma pistol wins out in terms of pure vibes. And melee is pretty simple, with the shovel, nailboard, and katana as the only melees I'm allowed to use. But what about taunt kills? Now, while Pyro has incendiary grenades on his bandolier, he never actually uses them in any way. But the soldier can kill enemies with the frag grenades on his bandolier with the pickaxe taunt kills. I've decided to count that towards allowing soldier to use frag grenades, but I never actually used them in my playthrough. Well, not the normal ones anyway, because let's not forget that the soldier has access to the Lumbricious Lid, which replaces the grenades on his bandolier with holy hand grenades. And Fallout New Vegas just so happens to have holy frag grenades available if you pick the Wild Wasteland trait. Thank God TF2 is such a goofy ass game that we get to use both Wild Wasteland exclusive weapons in this series. However, that does lead us right into our challenges. There's not many this time. We once again have to cripple items with shotguns, which is thankfully the last time we'll have to do this challenge, at least for this series. We have to kill abominations with our katana, and we have to kill 15 ghouls with the holy frag grenades. This is quite possibly the most difficult challenge so far, but I'll explain why that is in due time. But on top of difficult challenges, I didn't think this was quite enough, so I wanted to do something that I've never seen anyone do in New Vegas before. I want to get a Market Gardener kill. Will it even be possible? Honestly, I have no idea. But I have a theory that it should be, so let's find out and begin the adventure. As always, we start off in Goodsprings, make our boy to the best of the character creator's abilities, and start the stat allocation. High strength and endurance is obvious, with middling perception since Soldier's helmet covers a lot of his field of view. Intelligence is our dump stat, something I'll eventually come to regret when it comes to leveling up, since dear god I need to level up a lot to get all the skill points I need for certain perks, or just general efficiency. And with middling stats everywhere else, I decided to dump the rest into luck, since even though crits don't really work with explosives in New Vegas, they at least work with energy weapons. And what would a soldier main be without random crits at his disposal, I ask of you? Energy weapons, explosives, and repair are our tag skills. Repair needs to be high for us to make weapon repair kits, which are a necessity for this playthrough, since you're not finding missile launchers and Tesla cannons lying around everywhere like they're single shotguns. And it makes enough sense for Soldier considering the Beggar's Bazooka being made out of literal garbage. And for traits, I of course take Wild Wasteland and Hot-Blooded. I think that fits Soldier pretty well. And with that, we begin. First things first, I take everything in Doc Mitchell's house that isn't nailed down because I'm going to sell all of this to Chet so I can immediately buy a plasma pistol. And hopefully some weapon mods for it as well. So I need all the money I can get. It takes a bit of selling some extra stuff I had on me, but I managed to do just that and get started on the tutorial. After the Demo Man playthrough, I can't take this for granted. For as crap as the Bison is in TF2, here in New Vegas, it's one of the better weapons I could hope to start off with, having decent ammo capacity and damage for the early game. And I also make sure to grab a shovel so I have something else to deal damage with in case I run out of ammo. It's also useful for robbing graves, which is great since I find a shotgun in one, and use it to blow away Joe Cobb without a second thought or regret. With that done, I wrangle up a posse with my superior explosives knowledge, and honestly the powder gangers are so pathetic, is that they barely even managed to get a shot off. If my gang got single-handedly wiped out by a righteous bison, I would probably change allegiances pretty fast. Not much happens on the way over to Prim, but once I get there, I'm greeted by my fellow Americans, who I decide are gonna run this town. Would you believe this is actually my first time ever doing an NCR playthrough? Well, my boys can't run this place until I get rid of all the goobers, but they don't put up much of a fight, even when I don't have any explosives yet. My NCR boys need some backup from the outpost though, so that's where I'm heading next. On the way over, I kill some bugs so I can accept the job to kill more bugs, and at Mitten, I shoot the crucified powder gangers once again to finish the Broken Arms challenge. And once I'm done talking with my arch enemies, the furries and skirts, I head back over to the outpost to turn in my quests and convince Major Knight to send some forces over to Prim. Now the citizens of Prim have to pay their God-blessed American taxes, just like George Bush intended when he invented America. But all of that was just a warm-up. Now we're going into the Divide because I've decided we're getting the Red Glare rocket launcher first. It's not easy considering it's guarded by the tough sentry bots, but with enough persistence, the bison is able to punch through them. And once they're taken care of, I even find a spiffy new outfit to wear that's about as good as a soldier outfit is gonna get. I guess I'm on the green team. I blow through the last of the silo's defenses and talk to Ulysses. I don't really understand anything he's saying, and some of the marksmen start to kick my ass, but I kick back a little harder. I managed to get pretty lucky closing the gap on the marksman holding the red glare, managing to avoid eating rockets and his Blade of the West the entire time. And once I get my hands on the rocket launcher, I make sure to let everyone else know about it. And yeah, that's all I came here for. I'll be back around later, but for now I have another launcher to get. With a bit more firepower on my hands, I trust myself to break through the defenses of the super mutants on Black Mountain. And I clear out some powder gangers who continue to embarrass themselves and make my way over there. The red glare helps, but it chews through rockets fast. This is far from sustainable. So for the time being, I switch over to my other weapons to make this a bit easier in the long run. The long range spread of the bison leaves a bit to be desired, but it's still my best long range disposable option for the time being. Really, my issue is with the ammo. I'm already out. So I guess everyone who thought it should be the recharger pistol can laugh it up now, but I wouldn't have had one by this point anyway, so shut up. Eventually, I make it to the top of the mountain and decide to have a rocket launcher versus rocket launcher fight with a Nightkin sniper. I win. I always win. However, at the peak, I run out of rockets, the hunting shotgun I picked up from Lonesome Road is on the verge of breaking, and I'm even almost out of 20 gauge rounds for my single shotgun. This is getting dicey, but that's not going to stop me from saving this horrible, disgusting, mutated creature, and fighting another disgusting, mutated creature to the death. Let's just say this fight was pretty ugly. My ammo reserves were gone, and I was soon outnumbered 3-1 with nothing but my shovel and not a melee perk to my name. But if you think that shit stopped me, you've got the wrong soldier. It did later occur to me that since I had the Annabelle missile launcher, I could have used that in the fight. But these were all melee users anyway, so I probably would have just blown myself up. I'll have plenty of opportunities for that later. What's important is that we have a decent arsenal now. So let's get a move on. Yeah, see, now I blew myself up. I kind of figured that with an early game missile launcher, I could just blast the Deathclaws away, but that doesn't really apply to the alpha male. But next time I get a bit luckier. I mean, I didn't say a lot luckier. But hey, 5th time's the charm, and I cripple all of their legs at once. Now we can get a move on. I end up burning through basically all of my missiles on the way through here, so now my ammo problem has reared its head again. But at least now I'm that much closer to Vegas and as many supplies as I'll ever need. Besides, my NCR boys are always there to back me up against any fiends I run into out here. The Gunrunners thankfully have a decent amount of explosive ammo for me, but it's also very pricey. Couple that with the fact that I still want to buy the weapon mods for the Red Glare, and I think I'll have to mind my spending on ammo for the time being. Anyway, I head up from Mitten and go all Trail of Tears on the Bighorners up there, and for once, I'm able to fight the ghouls in the area with a hunting shotgun, instead of trying to get the one they're guarding. Yeah, I eventually figured out I should use the weapon repair kits I already had on this thing. The ghouls still hurt, though. However, I will not let these abominations against God, Jesus, and Ronald Reagan stand against me and my goals. I'm in this area for a very good reason. And it's not just to get a spare hunting shotgun. I'm here to kick some robot ass because these metallic jerk-offs are holding the Tesla-beaten prototype Tesla cannon hostage. At least they are until I turn them into quivering piles of oil and lead. And that's a task easier said than done. but I do it anyway because I want that Gundam god. I immediately put it to good use by testing it on the local giant rad scorpions, and their molecules don't seem to agree with it, so that works out for me. After heading back the way I came, things are pretty uneventful as I make my way into Novak. I'm here for a couple of reasons. For one thing, there's a bunch of supplies for weapon repair kits here that I'd like to steal. I also want to get a katana from Cliff Cliffsco, but he doesn't seem to have it this time around. You disappoint me, Dino Man. I'm also here to get started on the prep work for Come Fly With Me, but considering the ghoulishness of one of my challenges, I'm saving that for a bit later. But there's no reason not to grab what I can now. Turns out my katana is actually with Mick and Ralph, so I buy it off of them in Freeside. I think the locals like it. Yeah, see, this hideous zombie freak loves it. Well, that's not the only new weapon I need. I wouldn't mind a hunting shotgun upgrade. This one's getting a bit explodey in its old age. What? So you know the drill. Let's get ready for some eggs. I head over to Camp McCarran so I can kill 2 plants with 1 egg, getting the job to get the data from Hildern. But before I get started on any of that, I want to head over to Camp Searchlight. The dude here wants me to get the dog tags off of his ghoulified buddies, so I make sure to put them out of their misery. It does take a little bit of convincing to get the last one off of this guy, but I managed to deliver them all. I'm a hero. But the real prize here is, of course, the holy frag grenades. And oh man, are we gonna get some use out of these bad boys. But first I want to increase my rep with the NCR and gain access to Quartermaster Barton. So I head over to Boulder City since it's on the way to the dam, and I begin the process of going all Wounded Knee on the Great Khans. Really, the issue is that not enough men, women, and children were slaughtered at Bitter Springs. Anyway, it's back to the eggs. The plant men don't give me much trouble, although one does hit me with a Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare, so I grab the eggs, and grab the data, and we're good to go. I think there was some lady I was supposed to rescue or something. I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. There was a big moth in the room. Down the hall, this guy wants me to beat the shit out of a Legion scumbag prisoner. Can and will do. So I beat Skirt Boy within an inch of his life for looking at me funny, and everyone's pretty pleased with that. This lady also wants me to find her husband's corpse, so I guess I'll do that too. I am a hero after all. Once all that's done, I head up to grab some more eggs. I'm more of a danger to myself than the giant rad scorpions are to me, but thankfully I learned my lesson against the fire geckos. Maybe splash damage was the wrong perk to get. Speaking of splash damage, I decide that I've waited on getting my challenges done for long enough, and head over to the Repcon test site to start blasting away some ghouls with my holy frag grenades. This is going to be a running theme, isn't it? Now, the immense splash radius of the holy frag grenades isn't the only thing I have to worry about here. Remember in the Demo Man video when I managed to kill the alpha male Deathclaw with my very last stick of dynamite, but it didn't count? Well, the reason for that is that these challenges track your kills based on what item is in your hand as the enemy is killed. So since I threw the dynamite, but only had my bare fists out once the Deathclaw died, the game read it as me killing it with my fists, and didn't count it towards the challenge. And that's extremely relevant because we now have 15 ghouls to kill, and we only have 5 grenades. 3. That means our final grenade is useless for this challenge. So we have to kill all 15 ghouls with not 5, 3 grenades, but 2. Now, if I wanted, I could actually use this bug to my advantage by throwing some regular grenades and switching over to the holy grenades before they explode, so the game thinks I'm using the holy grenades. But that's cheap. I want to see if I can make this work for real, and get the challenge done with only 2 grenades. The massive splash radius and damage makes this both easier and harder for me, because while it can wipe out a massive swarm of them, I'm very likely to die in the process, which happens a lot. Especially since I need to aggro all of the ghouls in the area at once to get the most kills. The ghouls outside are tough to corral, but with a bit of turbo, I'm able to safely get 6 with 1 blast. That's, almost half. Luckily, inside has a lot more ghouls to blast, but corralling them is even harder since I have to keep the entire group aggroed on me the entire time I'm inside. So I can group up as many ghouls as possible, since this group here at the start only amounts to 11 kills total. Not to mention the hallways are just as much of a hindrance as they are a help, since they keep me from blowing myself up, but they also keep the ghouls from getting blown up. It takes a very long time, since there's always 1 or 2 ghouls that keep surviving the blast, I ended up spending maybe 20 minutes on this one challenge alone in an area that's swarming with ghouls. But eventually, I hit the magic shot. 9 ghouls down in one blow, and the silence afterwards is breathtaking. Okay, it's mostly silent. Let me just deal with this asshole. And then I'll deal with these assholes. I know a thing or two about launching rockets. Anyway, I head on over to Camp Forlorn Hope to start helping everyone out since I still want to get my NCR rating up. It's taken longer than it ought to. To give you the lightning round, I have to find some lost supplies, which gives me a good excuse to kill some sissy skirt boys who ambush me. I have to roleplay as a medic for a little while and help out some of my injured brothers in arms. I've got to show some of these pansies down at Nelson the true meaning of freedom in the American way, whether they want it or not. And all of this earns me a lot of favor with this very small man. I also get started on the Return to Sender quest here, and since that sends me off to a ranger station out towards Bloodborne Cave where the Night Stalker eggs are, I stop by on my way over. I know I end up jumping around a lot doing different tasks, but I want you to know that my process isn't completely schizophrenic. I am trying to multitask. With that in mind, I also hack up some nearby centaurs with my katana to get that challenge done as well. Now the only one I have left is the self-imposed Market Gardener challenge. A problem I'm having is that not a lot of people are willing to sell the ammo I'm looking for. Plain old rockets and missiles are really hard to come by, and the GRA variants like High Explosive and Incendiary are way more expensive and drain my bank account in seconds. There is a rocket crafting recipe, but I don't have enough science to get started on that yet, and we'll come back to that in a bit.
Maybe I'm just jumpy.
Yeah, it seemed pretty jumpy to me. Anyway, the way over to the next ranger station has me going past some aliens, so I show them the superior power of real American-made, New Zealand-made energy weapons. Don't worry, it's fine. New Zealand is basically the America of Oceania. Also, the area with this ranger station is the next set of eggs I need, the Cazadors. As threatening as they are, Cazadors don't get along well with high explosive rounds. Well, after visiting all the ranger stations, I'm led back around to follow up on some reports that all turn out to be bullshit, which leads me over to Camp Golf. Poindexter. What kind of stupid name is that? I bet he's not even a doctor. Well, Chief Hamlin seems pretty agreeable, so I let him off with a warning. It wouldn't be right to turn in a fellow high-ranking American over a few tall tales. Anyway, speaking of helping the NCR, there's some crybaby in a cave terrorizing Bitter Springs because, oh no, my massacre, the tragedy of my people. Yeah, whatever, I ain't getting paid to hear your life story. Also, a doctor at Bitter Springs wants some books, but they're just about brains and babies or something. They're not even about fighting, so I don't really get it. To cap off my spree of helping out my NCR buddies, I snipe down some punk-ass fiends who are guarding this guy's corpse, and then drag his ass over to his buddies all by myself. I'm starting to feel like the NCR wouldn't get anything done without me. And finally, I head on over to Sloan and wipe out the Deathclaws at Quarry Junction so I can get their eggs and the approval of Chomps Chomsky. Having explosives on my side makes breaking their legs a lot easier, and from there I can finish them off with basically anything I want. I choose the Bison for these two for extra humiliation points, because nothing feels worse than actually dying to the Bison. Actually, no, you know what? I take that back. Stock Shovel. That's way worse. That's a lot worse, actually. And hey, it took several hours of gameplay, but at least I got my revenge on the alpha male Deathclaw. That's for being where you ought not to have been. And then once all that is said and done, sex is had. As one has with women, I would know I have lots of experience. And with all that side stuff taken care of, it's time to get back to business. Ah, finally. Las Vegas. Home of some of the greatest and most iconic American landmarks. The Luxor Casino. The Great Pyramids of Giza. The Bass Pro Shop Pyramid. The Bean. It's also where I'll find that son of a bitch Benny, and I got a bone to pick with him. I convinced Swank to get me alone with him, and get my justice. You want to put me in the ground with a shovel? Well, two can play at that game, bitch ass. Once I leave the casino, that weird furry from earlier shows up, so I put a few runs of buckshot into his spinal cord for annoying me. I'm sure it'll be fine. Ambassador Crocker also wants to talk to me about fairy godparents, and also the crackpot lunatics carrying around missile launchers who will blow up everything and everyone they don't understand on sight. Well, that seems a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I'll see what I can do. Well, while approaching the boomers, for once I actually managed to not get myself blown up, so I've got a good feeling about this already. Well, I get to doing the usual set of boomer chores, killing some ants, fixing the panels, playing Subway Surfers on my phone while the stupid kid talks his head off. You know, the usual. That gets me enough reputation to use their armory so I can buy 6 missiles. You guys know how many of these fucking things I use on a daily basis, right? Well, at least it's something, enough to at least encourage me to go and raise the plane and complete my work with these goobers. Crocker is pleased and charges me to go deal with the Kings, meaning I actually have to do the King's questline for the first time in this whole series. It's not that I've intentionally been avoiding it or anything, it's just never worked out. But now it will. But before any of that, I have one last challenge I want to complete. I want to get the world's first Fallout New Vegas market gardener kill. Now you might be thinking, Fish, you've demonstrated multiple times in this very video that there is no rocket jumping in Fallout New Vegas. Your own explosives are nothing but a funny ragdoll generator. And you would be correct. But that's not to say the game doesn't have movement tech. Introducing the Reload Dash. This is a little quirk in the New Vegas engine where moving forward while switching ammo types or reloading, followed by immediately opening your Pip-Boy and unequipping the item you were just reloading, launches you forward at high speeds. And with ramps, slopes, or height, you can gain some serious aerial mobility. Now I'm fairly new at this, so I need to get a bit of practice in, but once I get the hang of it, I headed over to some local powder ganger hideouts. These guys have seriously low health, so I might just be able to get them in a single shovel swing if I'm lucky and get a crit. But landing the hit in the first place is going to be very tricky, especially since I'm having trouble landing in a consistent spot at all. Forget surviving afterwards. Now the surviving part isn't too bad, since all I need to do is quick save and quick load in mid-air, which depletes all of my falling momentum. But that also means I have to be very confident that I'm about to shovel someone once I quick save. My confidence is often unearned. I'll cut a long story short and say that I spent about an hour trying to make this. And even when I feel like I should have gotten it, this happens. Look at that. I'm in midair, hitting the guy with my shovel in VATS, and it phases through him, dealing no damage. And this is when the stars align and I actually manage to get a decent lineup, which is no easy feat in the first place. Hell, sometimes I've already landed and deal no damage. I think New Vegas is just weird about dealing melee damage while falling, or maybe immediately after a quick load, I don't know. But after almost an hour, I managed to get an attempt that, when strung together, looks something like this. But if I'm actually going with that as my kill, then there's a kill I got way earlier that actually looks a lot cleaner. But it's still not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not satisfied, but I can live with that. New Vegas' first market gardener. Kind of. Ish. Also, I kill everyone inside the prison for good measure out of frustration. They're all convicts anyway, they don't matter. Anyway, pretend that there's a natural segue here into talking about Old World Blues, because that's where we're going next. It's honestly mostly for Elijah's jury-rigged Tesla cannon. I want to see if it's any better or worse than the one I've got now. Not to mention, it's loaded with tons of supplies and experience, so it's a good playground to spend the next 4 hours or so in. I listened to the brain things talk for so long that I physically age and level up, and then I set out into the wastes of Big Mountain and remind the lobotomites of just how dangerous a Tesla cannon can be. They could use the refresher ever since Elijah left. Maybe it's my high luck stat or the fact that I can consistently stockpile ammo on this thing talking, but I feel like the Tesla cannon has been the star of the show even more than the missile launchers have. I totally get Cowmangler people now. The ammo upside really does matter. Even the shotgun ends up getting quite a bit of love here thanks to the pulse slugs. I feel like a lot of these playthroughs just kind of devolve into shotgun playthroughs because they're just such reliable weapons. But on the subject of weapons, I managed to pick up one of Elijah's jury-rigged Tesla cannons to add to my ever-growing collection of firearms. It's useful to have a bit of variety, and I proved that on the nearby Securitrons. Anyway, Old World Blues is Old World Blues. I feel like this is kind of an honest heart situation where I've said about as much about this DLC as I can at this point. I don't need to go through all the steps to get out of this place. Though I should mention that as I'm fighting some scorpions, I level up. Yeah, my 1 intelligence seriously leaves me with a lot of skill points to be desired. I'd really like to have my energy weapons at 100 right now. And I take the meltdown perk so that my Cowmanglers feel really explosive. And because I really need another weapon that I can accidentally kill myself with. You know, because I don't do that enough. Well, anyway, I do a lot of exploring around, get into some rocket fights where for once I actually don't manage to kill myself as much as I may want to. And once it's time to go and confront the evil Dr. Morbius, his scorpions end up kicking my ass before I'm even out the door. Look how many missiles they're eating. Good thing I'm almost done with these things. But I do still have to fight one last really big scorpion. and I cheesed it to death with the classic cowmangler strategy of corner peeking and applying DOT over and over again. It was actually pretty easy. After that, I talked to Morbius about his raisins, and my one intelligence brain is very agreeable once I reminded that explosions are cool. The cowmangler turns the brain boys into explosions. That's close enough as far as my own one intelligence monkey brain is concerned. So one incredibly long credits sequence later, and we're back home and ready for more action. And because I'm feeling saucy, we're going from one DLC straight to another. Because once again, I don't have all that much to say and I can get through it pretty quickly. Going through the DLCs for these videos can be a little bit frustrating because they take up a lot of time, and they're obviously important, but I can only say so much about them without getting repetitive. It's not like Lonesome Road has any side quests or anything. Not that I'd go into detail if I did them. I basically just 100%ed Old World Blues and barely touched on that. I even did the advanced versions of the main quest because I wanted the extra experience. I have to emphasize once again that I like the DLCs, but I feel like they just don't have the same replayability as the main game. The Marksmen and Deathclaws are tough enemies, but once you've seen them, you've seen them. Also, once you see the riot shotgun, you know that they can't be all that much of a threat. Balance was definitely not on the forefront of discussion with these perks and this weapons, but I'm not exactly complaining about that. What I will absolutely complain about is that crafting recipe to make rockets. Okay, so the Red Glare rocket launcher uses a special rocket ammo as opposed to the missile launcher's missile ammo. I know, riveting stuff here. Rockets are meant to be a lot more disposable than missiles. The Red Glare fires them out a lot faster, holds a lot of them in the chamber at once, and they don't do as much damage. It's a standard trade-off. And unlike missiles, rockets can be crafted at an ammo bench once you have 50 science, which I just got after listening to Ulysses' latest yapping session. The problem with this recipe is that for the price of a conductor, a cherry bomb, and some 50 cal primer, you only get one rocket at a time. Conductors are heavy as shit, so carrying around a lot of them is not like carrying around the supplies for weapon repair kits, which are way more valuable in the first place, and cherry bombs, despite being weightless, are not all that common. Lonesome Road is one of the only places that gives them to you with a reasonable degree of frequency, and even then, it's not like they're exactly plentiful. For a disposable ammo type, this is really stupid. If it made you a whole canister of rockets, that would be one thing. But no, it's just one single rocket, which isn't worth it at all. That's not killing anything. I wouldn't be complaining about this if I wasn't bleeding ammo on my explosive weapons for the entire game. Well, I use those rockets I crafted to blast my way through the funny elevator and move on. I fight some marked men, I fight some tunnelers, I fight the Fist of the Northrar, and eventually make my way to the big boy himself, Ulysses S. Grant. I never thought it would come to this, Mr. President, but I have to put you down to save America. Now, the conclusion I'm coming to is that I just happened to pick an amazing weapon when I fought Ulysses as Demo Man, and the 25mm APW is just an overpowered weapon, because this guy tanks missile after missile after missile to the face, and he's just fine. This launcher took down Roar with 3 shots. Homeboy should be a pile of goo and broken bones at this point, but he kicks my ass. I do something no mere soldier player should be capable of, and try to change my strategy, going for the high explosive rockets from Red Glare. Maybe the constant damage output will do the job? Nope, apparently not. Even the tried and true Tesla cannon doesn't cut it. And if you want to talk about real tried and true, the riot shotgun doesn't do a thing. Alright, asshole, I was saving this for Lanius, but if you want it that badly, it's all yours. I really should have seen that coming. Well, much like the engineer video, shutting down his iBot seems to be the only way I can win this fight. Once I do that, he actually seems to take the proper amount of damage from missiles to the face and doesn't get it all back instantly. Then after wiping out the marked men in the area, I of course launch the nuke straight at the Legion, America's sworn enemy, and get the hell out of the Divide. Now it's just a matter of wrapping up everything in the main campaign. Well, even though we've seen Lonesome Road quite a few times now, we haven't seen the King's Quest line once. The asshole the NCR wants me to kill charges me for entry, so we should already be a dead man walking, but I give it a pass and talk to Elvis. He is the king of America after all. So now that I've gotten done killing some of the most powerful beings in the wasteland and gained notoriety all throughout the world, I need to hire this jackoff to escort me across Freeside so I don't get mugged by some crackhead with a pool cue. I often wonder if maybe I do things out of order. Now ordinarily he's supposed to stage an ambush here, but I think what happened here is that either one of his buddies just straight up turned on him, or this quest just so happened to coincide with an actual ambush from one of those crackheads I was talking about earlier. Well, my brain powers aren't strong enough to figure out what's going on here, but I've never run into a problem that bullets can't solve yet. The king is pleased with my supreme powers of deduction, and wants me to go investigate a conflict that's been brewing between his gang and my boys at the NCR. Apparently it was an NCR lieutenant who seems to have started the violence, but knowing these low-life street scum, I don't exactly blame him. And I do basically find out that, of course, the NCR is completely blameless here, as all this asswipe's fault, so I convince everyone to stop the peace and keep the violence, and we're good to go. So now that the kings have backed off and are willing to engage in a little more conversation and a little less action, Crocker sends me over to talk to Colonel Moore, who just wants me to finish what Bitter Springs started. I mean, that's not what she says, she just wants the Cons to not join the Legion, but that's what I heard. No skin off my bones. I'll save my brothers in arms the PTSD and wipe them off the face of the earth myself. With one group of degenerates out of the way, now they want me to go have a look at the Omertas. Sure, that sounds like a nice excuse to glass the place. I haven't done that in a while. And it's all worth it, because right towards the end of my rampage, I finally managed to kill myself with Meltdown. It's all coming together now. Moore isn't exactly pleased with my methods or my results, but hey, what can you do? That's what you get when you hire me to do a job. Things get a little messy and it's not something that paperwork can fix. She seems to realize that when she sends me after Mr. House next, because there's only one way this could go. I tell Walt Disney to go shove the stupid ship up his wizard ghost ass if he wants it so badly, and then I send him to the big commie Epcot in the sky. And would you believe we're still not out of factions that we have to wipe off the face of the earth? For being a group of fanatical technology hoarders, the Brotherhood doesn't stand up against technology very well at all. I mean, we could keep the Brotherhood around if we wanted to and ally them with the NCR, but that's a time bomb waiting to go off, let's be real about this. Anyway, I wipe out their ridiculously tanky sentries. Seriously, these are high explosive rounds, and it takes like 5 of the things to finally take them down. And then I kill everyone and set off the time bomb waiting to go off. But a good soldier never leaves a job unfinished. And now it's time for the job I was born to do. Protect the President of the United States. I look up in the sniper's nest and wouldn't you know it, there's a Legion spy disguised as one of our snipers. Well, I'm not falling for it, Frenchie. And with the President's life saved, he hops back on his vertibird and flies away to safety. And now it's time for the Battle of Hoover Dam. General Oliver wants me to get to the Legate's camp and take the son of a bitch out. My kind of job. These Legion bastards don't make it easy for me though. These guys are like cockroaches except easier to hit with buckshot. I do end up having a handful of friendly fire incidents during the heat of battle, but in fairness they walked into my line of sight. They should have known better. I start to make my way across the dam and blast as many legionaries to Kingdom Come as my missiles will allow me. I've only got so many and there's a lot of them. Thankfully, I've still got missiles to spare as I make it to the Legate's camp. And one last rocket suicide for the road. Yep. And I Tesla cannon my way through the Praetorians before making it to the Legate himself. And I've saved something very special for him. 1, 2, 5. 3. I feel like the playthroughs where I instantly blow Lanius away are just as satisfying as the ones where I have an actual fight with him. Well, that's all the NCR asked me to do. My job here is done as far as I'm concerned. And as far as they're concerned. General Oliver thanks me for a job well done, and I've proven that I can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas as the soldier from TF2. I'll admit that this playthrough was a little bit all over the place. We hopped around so many places and did so much, and yet I feel like I didn't really reach my full potential. That one intelligence soldier has from drinking all that lead-filled water really held me back in terms of my stats. When I actually had missiles, this was pretty awesome, but that was less often than I'd like to admit. But overall, I'm satisfied with how this one went. I'll be back again with the final 2 playthroughs of the series soon, and I'll see you all then. What is going on there? What is going on?
Evening.
What are you Anyway.
New face in the outpost.